let's get to the Cowboys. So, latest on Cowboys camp, no more injuries since Sam Williams, which is good. Knock on wood. Speaking of injuries, though, Trayvon Diggs coming back from injury, which is good. He's 10 months removed now from his ACL tear. He spoke to the media yesterday, and he was just kind of talking about, like, it's so weird to, like, not be on the football field, but also he really missed the camaraderie. He really missed being part of the team. And I feel like that can really weigh on people's psyches, especially at the NFL ranks, when you're seeing your team go on to this great success when they went 12-5 last year, and they did it without you. And I feel like that can really wear on him. So he was talking a lot about how great it feels to be back and just be back in the room, be back with the guys and all that stuff.
DaRon forming into his own and you guys being able to be a duo, how excited are you to get on the field with him?
Super excited to get on the field with him. You know, I've been seeing him ever since he came here. You know, been doing it since, you know, he first stepped foot on the Cowboys. So, you know, I'm just super happy to be here. Super happy to be able to play with him and, you know, we get some balls together.
Magnificent flow as well from Trayvon Diggs.
100%, right? I was thinking the same thing.
So that soundbite, you can hear him talking about the duo of him and DaRon Bland. And each of them have had magnificent seasons apart from each other, but now they're going to try and have magnificent seasons together. DaRon Bland, I believe, was just rated in the top 30 in the NFL 100. So, and Trayvon Diggs at his best was also rated in the top 30 before he was injured. So what do you think that duo between them, seeing as that, barring health, they are healthy, they're on the football field together in the secondary. What do you think that equals?
Well, it's really fascinating, right? Do we get all-pro superstar, the next great thing, DaRon Bland, if Diggs doesn't go down, right?
Yeah, it's fair to ask.
So the good news is now that they're both here, DaRon Bland has arrived. We got to assume that Diggs is going to pick up right where he left off. So there was a blessing sort of in the injury in that the Cowboys actually got better this year in terms of their starting cornerback duos. So, you know, sometimes these injuries create opportunities for other guys, and it's cool when it really happens like this. You know, I think that's why, obviously, Stephon Gilmore isn't here this year, right? Also, coupled with that Jordan Lewis, who's also a pretty darn good football player in his own right, was coming back from a horrific foot injury, and now, you know, he's going to be your number 3 guy. So, you know, that room is a little bit stronger this year than it was last year. And I think the cool thing is, too, that if something were to happen, maybe even on the back end of this DB room in terms of injuries, they could always go back and get Gilmore again, and he's still pretty damn good. I think he's just waiting for, you know, the right opportunity to sign with somebody like a Cowboys that needs somebody to come in a pinch.
I think it's a little scarring now, no pun intended, when you're talking about injuries, season-long injuries, ACLs, feet, anything like that, because you saw what happened to Michael Gallup. You see, Michael Gallup was on a trajectory heading straight up, and then he got injured.
Well said.
And he never came back from it. He was never that guy again. And so, as a Cowboy fan, or if I was a Cowboy fan, I would be a little concerned just because I've seen it before. I've seen guys like Adrian Peterson come back in 8 months from an ACL tear and be better than ever. But I've also seen guys like Michael Gallup who can just never get that step again. And Trayvon Diggs just got a 5-year, $96 million contract, whatever it was, and then he got hurt. So are the Cowboys now stuck with that, or is that going to end up looking like a bargain because he comes back and better than ever? That's just one of those things that I can't get out of the back of my mind.
Well, you know, just speaking on, you know, what happened with 13, thankfully he got paid. You know, and 100%. I, you know, you can hate on the Cowboys and hate where they're at in their cap situation because they probably should have never made that deal. And there's no way I would ever argue with you, right? I mean, coming off of that injury, there's no way the Cowboys should have given him that kind of money, something that they're still paying for. However, the human in me is grateful that somebody with that kind of talent and was that kind of player, and to your point, the trajectory was going nowhere but straight up, and then could never come back from it, at least got that bag.
That's
before his career ended.
It's true, and there's two aspects of it, right? There's rooting for the person, and then there's rooting for the team.
Right.
Obviously, the team was hurt by that contract. The team was hurt by the Zeke contract. You're hoping now as a Cowboy fan that they're not hurt by this Trayvon Diggs contract as well. You're not hoping that they gave him the bag and then he's just never that guy again. Because he was, before the injury, I said on this podcast, before the injury and before he got paid, that he would have been the last one to get paid if it was me. Because he's very much a risk-reward kind of guy. It's like you're going to surrender a few touchdowns over the top, but he might get 11 picks. Like, you don't know because he goes out and he risks it. So I don't know. It's very, very iffy for me.
But the ball hawking is so elite, and turnovers and creating turnovers on NFL defenses. Again, if you're squishing all the numbers together, the supercomputers are going to say, this is the guy that you have to pay because he's clearly a difference maker, even if he doesn't do this, and this. And nobody's perfect, obviously. Maybe he's not the most physical or whatever it is that somebody's saying that he's not. The fact that a guy can hawk the ball like that, it's the same thing with Bland. Now you got two of those guys. I mean,
it's true, but
every team would be lucky to have one of those guys or a half of one of those guys.
It's true. Just don't be surprised when there is a touchdown or two surrendered over the top because they go for a ball they miss, and then it's open running for a receiver on the outside.
Well, we'll have those arguments too. As the Cowboys traverse their way through the summer, when they start paying this player or this player or this player, and then still continue to see how bad a shape that their salary cap is for a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. It's the age-old argument, and luckily, no matter which way they go, we'll be able to argue for or against.
Speaking of guys who are making money on this roster and age, Tank Lawrence talked yesterday. Demarcus Lawrence been on this team for a solid 10 years now. He's been one of the leaders on this team for a long time. I believe he's going into his contract year. Excuse me. He's going into a contract year now, and he, especially with Sam Williams going down, has a lot on his shoulders. One, in the leadership department, but two, in the production department. I didn't realize until just looking this up before we came in here and I was putting the rundown together that Tank hasn't had a double-digit sack season since 2018. I didn't realize he was a 31-year-old D-end who has been not unproductive, but less than $21 million of production. And while defensive line is kind of hard to look at stats all the time and see the value of that player because a lot of his intangibles and maybe taking double teams away from Micah or whatever the case may be. I think they're going to need to see a lot more production out of him, especially since Sam Williams is down with injury and Marshawn Nealand is a rookie.
Yeah, I think over the last couple years, he's been the guy that has his hand on the ground that the other teams clearly have to make sure that they don't let get loose. I was thinking about him yesterday. In fact, I wrote up a little story on him. He's the guy you take for granted, though, dude. He's going to do the dirty work. He's played hurt. He's always available on Sunday, even if he doesn't practice during the week. He's clearly the leader in that locker room. There's no on the defensive side of the ball. And I thought it was fascinating what McCarthy said about him yesterday.
What did he say?
He said when he was with Green Bay, the way they approached game planning Dallas was, first and foremost, he said, Demarcus Lawrence is a bowling ball with butcher knives. And I was like, God, that's good. Like, I never heard anybody describe another human being that way.
It was a bowling ball with butcher knives.
Yeah, it was really, really tastefully done, I thought, by McCarthy. That was just, this guy's a dog. And, you can't have too many of those guys on the team. But I think, to your point, it is hard to remember that he's got this many years in the league. And
I didn't know that.
Pro
I didn't
Bowls
think
and
about
everything else. And right, he's the guy we have tended to take for granted because, again, last year it was Bland that was flashing. Then it was Diggs. Of course, Micah is always getting the attention, and where's the bullseye there? So on a defense full of guys that have done a really good job in the flash department, he tends to be overlooked, but you're right. I think there will be a lot on his shoulders, and it's a contract year, so it's another prove-it year. So you're probably going to get even more out of DeMarcus if he stays healthy than you might have if there wasn't a contract, although I think he's one of those guys. I'm going to walk that back. He's one of those guys. You could pay him a nickel or you could pay him a gazillion nickels, and you'd still get the same
I think
all-out baller and, heady. He's everything you want in a football player.
his situation, contract-wise, reminds me of another Demarcus Ware. As much as Demarcus will always be, and Ware, that is, will always be a Cowboy, at the end of the tenure, it was like, we can't pay you this time.
Right.
And that's kind of what it seems like here. Like, no matter what Demarcus Lawrence does this season, the way that their contract situations are shaping up, they're not going to be able to pay him after this season, whether it's 10, 15, 20 million dollars, whatever it is. His last bag, he's not going to be able to get from the Cowboys. So as someone who's watched the Cowboys for a long time, and all the Cowboys fans out there should look at this with like rose-colored glasses on, because this might be the last 17 games you see DeMarcus Lawrence in the Cowboys uniform. And last thing about Cowboys camp is Tyler Guyton has looked really good. He's been running with the ones. Chime Udoga also subbing in at left tackle with the ones as well. But you saw a couple of clips circling on social media. We've seen the footage from Cowboys camp, him taking on Micah on that left side, him taking on Tank on that left side. He's looked really, really good, and he's earned some rave reviews from Mac and a lot of the beat writers out there as well.
Yeah, and I mean, when we were talking to Tyler Smith during OTAs, he said he felt like Guyton was further along to that point in his Cowboy career, talking about minicamp and OTAs, than even Tyler Smith was, and we know how damn good a football player Tyler Smith is. So, yeah, it's early in camp, right? But the cool thing is that if you're a guy like Guyton and you're seeing NFL stuff for the first time, it's pretty cool. You have a couple of wins against a guy like Micah Parsons. That's got to build some early confidence, I would
100%.
think, right?
Let me go back to my first page here where I'm listing Simone Biles' gold medals. Let me put down 6 because she just won another gold medal while we were sitting here.
Oh, wait, we did the spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Oh.
I mean, if you're watching me right now, you're not watching Simone, which means you probably don't care about Simone that much. So I'm just saying.
Or you forgot it was on.
Or you forgot it was on.
But you can watch it again tonight in prime time.
Yeah, News 4. Tyler Guyton has been very impressive, and congratulations to Simone. Suni Lee takes bronze, so 2 Americans in the top 3.
Yeah,
in the
all right,
all-around.
even better. I like that. We had a discussion this morning. Would you rather see more golds on the medal count list for your nation, or would you rather see total number of medals?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I had to mull it over too.
My initial thought is more medals. However, then I think of how many athletes the U.S. has. Mm-hmm. And, of course they're going to get more medals because they have more chances. So I would think more golds because that means you're better. You're the best at more things.
That's fair.
That's what I would say, at least.
I like looking at it from the standpoint, when I see all those countries up there, I like mine at the top.
I mean, yeah, if you want to see the standings, of course, you want to see it at the top.
We got more, so y'all, hasta bye-bye.
All right, let's talk very quickly about that's a good question. I didn't even think of that.